All right, so get this. We're diving into AI today, Elon Musk, XAI, and their new model, GROK 3. You know that Mint live blog from the launch? Honestly, there's a lot to unpack.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's so much buzz around Grok 3. I think we should dig into why it's causing such a stir, especially, in this crazy competitive AI world.
Right, it's like everyone's racing to be the next top dog. So maybe we should start with like the basics. What is GROK 3 exactly? They keep calling it this foundational model.
Okay, so think about ChatGPT. You've used that, right? Grok 3 is built on, I guess you could say, the same kind of concept, but with XAI's own twist. It's an AI system. It's trained on tons and tons of data, so it can basically understand and generate language like us humans.
Okay, that makes sense. But Musk is saying Grok 3 is like scary smart and it'll outperform everyone. Is that just like marketing hype or is there something more?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of his style, right? Bold statements, grabs your attention. But the live blog, it did highlight some interesting stuff about Grok 3. Like, it's supposed to have way better reasoning abilities.
Reasoning? So it's not just giving like pre-programmed answers.
That's the idea. It's designed to solve tougher problems. Think critically. It's even supposed to show its chain of thought so users can see how it arrives at a conclusion. Of course, they're going to, obscure the process to prevent copying. But it's still pretty cool.
Wow, that's actually really cool. And there's also that deep search feature, right? Like ChatGPT's deep research. What's the big deal with that?
Time saving. It streamlines all that research. Let's say you need to learn about some complex topic. Grok 3 does the work for you, pulls out the important info, and presents it in a way that is easy to digest. No more hours of reading through articles.
So it's like your own personal research assistant on steroids. Okay, I can see why people are excited about this.
Exactly. And it fits with Musk's whole vision, making AI helpful and accessible for everyone. But speaking of access, that brings up some, well, interesting questions.
You mean like how it's only available to X Premium Plus people at first?
Yeah, exactly. They're using their existing users to get things going, which makes sense. But it might also limit, well, who can actually use Grok 3.
True, but they are planning a separate subscription called Super Grok for everyone else, so they really are good at naming things.
They are. Super Grok is supposed to have all the most advanced features, plus you get updates first. It'll be interesting to see if these two, tiers ever merge.
Yeah, especially since it seems like updates are coming fast. Users will have to update the X app to get the full Grok 3 experience, and get this, they release the update at the same time as the launch. So, classic Musk, always pushing the limits.
True, but it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? It's great that they're constantly improving things, but it could also be a bit much for users to keep up with.
For sure. But for now, let's focus on what we do know. How does Grok 3 compare to, everything else out there? The live blog had some pretty impressive benchmarks.
Yeah, they said Grok 3 is outperforming some big names like Gemini 2 Pro, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, GPT-4o, even DeepSeek V3, in math, science, and coding, no less.
Wow, those are some like heavyweight competitors, but benchmarks don't tell the whole story. What's your take on that?
Right, benchmarks can give you a hint of potential, but they don't always match up with how something performs in real life, right? It'll be fascinating to see how Grok 3 handles actual tasks and how users experience those advanced capabilities we were talking about.
Totally agree. The real test is out there in the wild. But speaking of the wider AI world, this whole Grok 3 launch feels like a real shakeup. And then there's Musk's bid for OpenAI, a $97.4 billion offer. What is he doing?
Bold move. He doesn't just want to play in the AI world, he wants to run it. Who knows if the bid will work out, but it definitely shows how intense this competition is and how high the stakes are.
Isn't it ironic? This is the same guy who warns about AI potentially destroying civilization.
It's definitely interesting, right? He's pushing AI development further with Grok 3, but at the same time, he's saying, hey, be careful, this stuff is dangerous. Maybe he wants to be in charge to make sure AI is developed responsibly. Or maybe it's just about power. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it adds a whole other layer to this, doesn't it? And we can't forget about DeepSeek either. They're like the rebels of AI.
DeepSeek, yeah. They're changing the game. Their open source model is forcing the big guys, even OpenAI, to rethink their pricing. OpenAI actually had to release its first reasoning model for free and lower costs, all because of the pressure DeepSeek created.
So DeepSeek is all about making things affordable and accessible, while Musk wants to dominate and innovate quickly. It's like two totally different approaches, right?
It's a fascinating dynamic. Who knows what will happen? Can Grok 3 stay premium when DeepSeek is pushing for affordability? Will open source become the norm, or will companies like XAI find a way to stay ahead?
It's like we're watching some big game play out in real time. But let's not forget about, our listeners. What does all this mean for them?
Exactly. That's what we're here for, connecting the dots and making this information relevant.
So what does it all mean? Why should we care about Grok 3? Is it just another tech thing or something more?
I think it's way more than just a thing. It represents how fast AI is growing and how much it's impacting our lives.
I'm listening. Tell me more. What should we be thinking about?
Well, Grok 3 and all these other new AI models, they could change how we solve problems, automate tasks, even understand the world. It's a potential leap forward.
So it's not just about having a really smart chatbot to answer our questions, right?
Exactly. It could make us more efficient, creative, insightful. Think of the possibilities. AI could help scientists find cures, help engineers build sustainable solutions, even help artists create amazing things.
That's a pretty optimistic outlook. But what about the downsides? AI taking over the world, all those sci-fi scenarios.
Of course, those concerns are valid, for sure. We need to be cautious. The key is to talk about it, establish ethical rules, and be responsible. We have to shape the future of AI and make sure it benefits humanity.
That makes sense. Okay, back to Grok 3. We've talked a lot about it, but what really stood out to you from all of this?
For me, it's the mix of ambition and uncertainty. Musk wants to build the best AI system ever, but there are so many unknowns. Will it live up to the hype? Will XAI be ethical? How will it keep up with the competition? And how will it affect society? So many questions.
So many questions. But that's part of why this is so fascinating, right? We're right here watching a technological revolution happen.
Totally. And that's what's great about these deep dives. We're exploring this together, trying to understand it.
And hopefully, having some fun along the way.
For sure. A little curiosity and wonder go a long way when you're dealing with something this complex.
Speaking of wonder, the live blog did mention some pretty cool anecdotes and behind-the-scenes stuff.
Oh, yeah. Siobhan Zillis, she's close with Musk. She talked about using Grok 3 for some intense science discussion. She described it as like having a personal tutor. Pretty convincing, right?
Totally. And remember when Musk said Grok 3 could go into a SpaceX rocket? When they asked him for a timeline, he just said 2 years.
2 years. Like it's no big deal. Classic Musk. Always pushing boundaries, blowing our minds.
It's wild. But it makes you wonder, what's his ultimate goal for Grok 3? Is it really all about helping humanity, or is there more than it?
It's hard to know for sure, but Musk definitely thinks big. He's aiming for an AI-powered future on Earth and beyond.
Okay, you've got me hooked. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's take a breath. We've covered a lot in this first part of our deep dive.
We have, and I'm sure there's more to uncover as we keep exploring Grok 3.
Great. I'm ready for more. So, before we were talking about Musk's ambitions and all the unknowns surrounding Grok 3, but there was this one thing in the Mint live blog I found super interesting. Grok 3 is being designed to get humor, like actually understand and respond to jokes.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. An AI with a sense of humor. It could totally change how we interact with AI, make it more, relatable.
Right. Imagine an AI that can make you laugh. It would be amazing. But it also makes you think, can a machine really get humor? Or is it just copying what it's learned from the data?
Ooh, good question. People have been debating that for years, and I don't think there's a simple answer. But the fact that we're even asking this shows how AI is getting so advanced. It's blurring the lines between, like, human and machine.
That's kind of mind-blowing. But okay, let's come back to reality for a second. I've talked about what Grok 3 can do, who it's up against, and the potential impact. What really stood out to you from all of this?
For me, it's that Grok 3 could give everyone access to knowledge. It could empower people in a way we haven't seen before.
Democratized knowledge, huh? How do you see that happening?
Think about it. What if anyone, no matter where they come from, how much money they have, or their education, could use this powerful AI to learn and create and solve problems? That's the potential, and it's really inspiring.
I see what you mean. It would be incredible. But, we can't ignore the risks either, right? What about jobs being replaced, algorithmic bias, AI being used for bad stuff?
Those are real concerns, absolutely. We can't just pretend they don't exist. But I believe that if AI is developed responsibly, the good will outweigh the bad.
So finding that balance is key, right?
Exactly. Cautious optimism, I guess you could call it, making sure AI helps us, not hurts us.
Makes sense. Okay, let's zoom out for a minute. This whole Grok 3 launch feels like just the start. The big question is, how will Grok 3 actually perform in the real world? And how will it handle all the competition?
Right. That's the real test. Will it become what Musk wants it to be? Or will something else come along and blow it out of the water?
It's like we're all on the edge of our seats watching this play out.
Totally. And the results of this, well, they could change everything.
Okay, so before we wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with a question to think about.
Ooh, I like that. Always good to spark some more thinking.
So here it is. Musk has these huge plans. He's worried about AI safety and everything's moving so fast. How could Grok 3 change AI in the next few years? What should we be watching out for, both the good and the bad?
Such a great question. That's something we're all going to be figuring out, right? The future of AI is wide open. But one thing's for sure, we're creating it right now with our choices and actions and how we talk about it.
That's powerful stuff. This whole deep dive has really made me think.
Me too. It's been great exploring all this with you.
And to all our listeners, thanks for joining us as we explore Grok 3.
We hope this is giving you some food for thought and made you curious about what's coming next in AI.
It's pretty amazing to think about, we're living through this huge shift in technology, and it's both exciting and kind of scary at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like any powerful tool, there will be bumps in the road, but I think the key is to stay open to it all, be willing to learn as we go.
Definitely. So we've covered a lot about Grok 3, what it can do, the competition, the big picture stuff. But I want to go back to something you said before, how Grok 3 could make knowledge accessible to everyone.
Yes, that's something I really care about. Imagine if everyone, no matter their background, could use this incredible AI to learn and grow.
It would be amazing. But right now, only people with those premium subscriptions can use it. So how do we make it available for everyone? How do we bridge that gap?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's something we need to figure out as a society. Maybe it's government funding, maybe it's philanthropy, maybe it's a push for open source AI. It's a tough one, but we need to start talking about it.
For sure. We need to make sure everyone benefits, not just the select few. Okay, I think we've covered pretty much everything about Grok 3. Any last words of wisdom for our listeners before we wrap up?
Well, just this. The future of AI is not set in stone. We're all shaping it, with every choice we make, every action we take, and every conversation we have about its potential, both the good and the bad. So stay informed, stay curious, and keep the conversation going. The future of AI is in our hands.
Wow, that's a great way to put it. I completely agree. And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Grok 3. We hope you learned something new and that it sparked some thoughts about where AI is heading. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.